We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 11:04. So welcome everyone. Good morning and welcome to the school age childcare out of school time information session on the NAA OST job quality standards. My name is Rachel Brenneman. I am the project specialist for the Poseidon Initiative and Network, and also for the 21C initiative here at the Center for Schools and Communities. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Contrell Armour is the director of the Poseidon Network here at the Center for Schools and Communities. He's one of 50 Mott Foundation supported networks, advanced high quality out of school time programs with over 30 years in youth development. He brings extensive experience in program design, leadership, and system building, but with strong commitment to access, opportunity, and evaluating youth voice in every facet of his work. So glad to have Contrell here. We also have Betsy Sotman. Betsy has worked in the school age childcare field for over 30 years as a teacher from 4th to 6th grade and administrator of multi-sites, 9 years as an environment rating scale assessor, and is currently a TA specialist with the school age projects through PA Key. She possesses a master's in teaching and curriculum. She has presented at the national level and is currently active in Poseidon Steering Committee, Quality Committee, and board member of the PENSACA, a member of the Junior League, and a Riley White Peterson's Fellow. She is also a two-time recipient of the Poseidon Out of School Champion Award. So thank you, Betsy, for being here. And finally, we have Catherine Vargas. Catherine is the director of the Parks and Recreation for the city of Pittsburgh, overseeing the city's recreation centers, senior centers, park rangers, aquatics, and other recreational assets. Previously, she directed Allegheny Partners of Out of School Time, a post at the United Way Southwestern Pennsylvania, and now serves as board chair of the independent A-Post organization. Catherine began her career with Neighborhood Learning Alliance and also teaches as an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh School of Social Work. So welcome, Catherine. And Catherine, I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to you, and welcome to everyone. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rachel, for that great introduction. We're here today to talk about the National Afterschool Association's job quality standards. You've got a great introduction to us. This team, the three of us, have been working together in a lot of different ways across the state to assist in the advancement of quality and advocacy work that happens for both the school age care community, out of school time community, those who are serving kids outside of the school day. So our agenda today, Contrell is going to kick it off by introducing the standards to you all, going through what exactly the NAA workforce standards are. After that, Betsy's going to talk about how advancing workforce quality equals the advancement of program quality. And then I'm going to talk a bit about the opportunities for policy level work with the workforce standards. We're hoping to have some time at the end for some Q&A and some discussion. And, you know, to also give you guys an overview of why we're having this conversation now. Now more than ever, organizations have been experiencing, ever since COVID especially, difficulty in being able to retain staff, high burnout rates amongst our teams. We're not often have enough funding to provide the wages that we want to for our teams. That equals high turnover, and the workforce standards are an opportunity for us to have national level conversations about these issues that we're all facing. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Contrell to get us started. And again, I just want to, on the behalf of all of us, thank you all for taking a bit of your afternoon today to have this conversation.
All right, awesome, great. Thank you, Catherine. I would like to welcome and good morning to you all. And again, thank you for joining us today. I have the pleasure to provide the overview of the OST job quality standards that were designed to define what high quality OST practice looks like across the workforce. NNA has introduced a national framework designed to strengthen our field and elevate professionalism across our OST roles. Today, we're going to review what those standards are, how they support quality, and how they can be used here in PA to strengthen our OST system. Before we dive into those standards, I definitely would like to give a shout out and acknowledge NNA's leadership in setting professional benchmarks for the OST field. So I am going to quickly go to my reactions and give some claps. I'm going to send with some effects, some love, because it's really appreciative of the work that the National After School Association is putting in on behalf of the entire OST field. So our first slide here, you'll see, is the National After School Association is a professional membership association for people who work with and for youth during out of school time. So again, just you can read there what they foster, which is a positive youth outcomes by supporting and developing and advocating for after school professionals and leaders across the country. The association is the leading network of our OST professionals. Here you'll see why job quality, or what is job quality? Why is job quality? The OST quality connection theory of chance. So the NNA developed kind of this flow chart here to talk about the out of school time space a thriving OST workforce prioritizing job quality. So what does that really mean? That we're not looking at after school programming as a part-time, as something extra, as something that might be important versus something that we know is essential. So we first have to start in understanding and respect the fact that the out of school time space is a job quality position. That highlight and understanding that the job is quality trickles into the workforce stability. People begin to really take ownership of their positions and feel like they're important in the pipeline, in the ecosystem of learning through their out of school time space. That leads right into program quality. So we talk about wanting high quality for out of school time programs. Is it just the services or the enrichment activity that's offered to be high quality? Or are we really looking at investing in the staff, which is investing in the space to bring us program quality, high quality, which then gives us those positive youth outcomes? So this little quick flow chart here, why job quality, what is job quality, why it's important, this is what NNA was able to come up with. Here you'll see on this next slide, the NNA job quality standards. Okay, so that includes 4 pillars. On the bottom, we'll start with core, as that's kind of the foundation. You'll see support, opportunity, and voice included in those pillars as well. Within each of the pillars, in total, there are 15 elements that are important to this job quality that we're talking about that leads to the satisfaction and then those positive youth outcomes. And then there are 67 indicators to help assess what that job quality might look like. So the next couple of slides, we're going to just quickly identify each pillar. We're going to look at the elements that help support that job quality under that pillar. And then I'm going to just give a real quick few examples on what an indicator could sound like or look like or to have or enact to make sure that job quality is happening across the board. All right, so here you'll see pillar number 1. This is the core. In that picture you've seen that was on the bottom part, but this relates to the foundational job design elements that establish what we call a good job, right? You'll see things like a job description and postings, the interviewing, onboarding, all of those elements or indicators, we'll say, make up this pillar. And some examples or sample indicators for core in the job quality is have assigned salary ranges, anticipated schedules and hours, and descriptions of benefits offered in the job description when it's posted. These, again, sample indicators are moving towards high quality job. For interviewing, as one of the elements, names and addresses are removed from resumes before screening. So everything is done with kind of a veil of ignorance, so to speak. For onboarding, an employee handbook is used as a central document outlining general expectations, policies, and guidelines. So that onboarding is so important in the sample educator element, as well as the pay hours and scheduling. Most workers are scheduled for 15 or more hours per week. So again, just really being transparent in the core of you advertising this position. And then last but not least is the workplace inclusion element or indicator. And then some of those sample indicator that would be diversity, equity, and inclusion are written core values and practice norms. Here we'll see pillar 2, which is support. This focuses on how the organization supports its staff. All right. So here you'll see those elements. You'll see the elements that are listed here: training and professional development, performance management, coaching and supervision, as well as recognition and appreciation. Let's go through some of those sample indicators. So for training and professional development, providing opportunities for staff to participate in skill building beyond required trainings. Another sample indicator for performance management would be setting clear goals and feedback loops for your staff. Coaching and supervision, an indicator could be supervisors meet regularly with staff to support growth. So whether that's in a team meeting or one-on-ones, they're intentional conversations to help support staff growth. Last but not least, we'll say recognition and appreciation. Here, an indicator in an organization would be worker contributions are recognized publicly and they are routinely recognized. Pillar 3. All right, so here we're talking about opportunity within the quality job. This emphasizes a career pathway and advancement for workers. As much as you might want to keep that worker on your staff or on your payroll, understanding and communicating other opportunities can strengthen that individual within their role versus maybe them leaving the organization. So just look here at the indicators for this pillar, which is career pathing, mentoring and peer support, advancement and growth in current roles, as well as offering leadership opportunities. So what are some sample indicators for pillar 3 when we talk about opportunity? When we talk about career pathing, this would be clearly defining professional progression steps or roles within the program. An indicator for mentoring and peer support would be availability of mentorship programs for new staff. So whether that's job shadowing or a particular mentor assigned for your newer staff so they can begin to feel comfortable and confident in their roles. Looking at the indicator of advancement and growth within their role. This is the ability to move from frontline to lead roles, right? We want to be clear that there is growth for opportunity to grow without leaving. And last but not least, when we look at the leadership opportunities, an indicator there will be staff has the opportunity to lead teams or initiatives. The last pillar that we have here is voice. This pillar deals with the worker engagement, participation, autonomy, and having a say in one's work in the workplace. So we'll look at what the indicator is here under the pillar, which is participation, involvement, and encouragement. And we want to say here that workers have genuine, consistent opportunities to share their ideas, suggestions, and expertise. It's just not all in the anonymous box, tell us and drop it off. We want to be intentional with our workers to find out what opportunities they would like that may not be presented to them. We also want to look at how workers have the opportunities to provide input into developing their own roles and decisions that affect their experience. And last but not least, for the pillar 4 sample indicator for worker satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and engagement are measured and addressed regularly through various formal and informal methods. So I mentioned that in a few other pieces here on some slides about the intentional conversations and intentional meetings with the workers to gain perspective and feedback. So here you'll see what those work standards or how those job quality standards can be used, determine how your program is elevating job quality for staff, advocate for more resources to be able to pay staff a living wage, advance statewide support of professional development, along with increased job performance and growth, and more. What that and more is this resource that we will also drop in the chat. This here will tell you both the out of school time job quality standards that I gave a quick review of. You'll get a little bit more in depth, but you'll also see the out of time school job quality standards user guide and assessment. And you'll get more information on that with our next presenter, Betsy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Control. Betsy?
Yes, thank you, everybody, for being here. Nice familiar faces, as well as, a spattering of different types of organizations that work in the out-of-school time space. So we will have that available to you, the standards, if you're chomping at the bit to get a hold of them, or you may have already seen them. But I do want to just say, too, that there are many different quality initiatives within our state supporting programs, which is excellent. We have a very robust Keystone Star system, and I know the 21 CCLC folks have a lot of standards that they have to follow as well. So there's clearly information in them that will overlap. And I want to say, particularly to the people that are in the Keystone Star system, that this is truly just an introduction to the standards themselves. There's no requirement with these. This is just an awareness today of what they are. And, as an ex-director of school-age childcare for many years, and some of you already know that about me, I did go outside of just required parameters to make sure that I was doing what I needed to for kids. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention, that this is an awareness that this tool is in existence. You might pick it up and say, wow, this stuff is great, or, and so forth. So that's, I wanted to just make sure people are aware of that. And so here we do have the 4 pillars again that Contrail introduced to everybody. And you will see in the guide, and Catherine is going to go over this, that there are many stakeholders involved in the entire job quality with labor and industry, have multiple policies and so forth that occur nationally and statewide to support job quality. And so depending on your role will depend on how you view these and where your needs may be. So for me as a SAC specialist, and I think about the areas, I'm not really doing any of the core work, but I know that some of the systems have very specific core work, and people that are directing programs also have a foundation with all that core work. But just thinking about yourself, ask yourself, what practices do I do in my role to support the job quality standards? Thinking about your role and using your role and your expertise to see how this might fit into your particular work. Like for me personally, I support quality as it pertains to training and professional development offerings. People know that we do that. I always, everyone knows this as well, acknowledging the importance of our work. And then performance management by using the continuous quality improvement philosophy and Keystone Star standards. So that's where I come in as support. So ask yourself, where is your support? As a director, you may be supporting for your staff to take different trainings and so forth. And then in opportunity, thinking about career development, we're offering in our state the school-age professional credential. and so forth, and asking that people continue their education to be better at their jobs. And then mentoring and coaching, I work directly with any coach and so forth that's needed. So I'm bringing these to your attention because we all have different roles, and when collaboration works together, and policy, which Catherine is going to talk about, can support people's ability to move agendas forward as it pertains maybe to worthy wages and so forth. That's all really, really good stuff. And then voice. I participate, as I was introduced, in multiple organizations to elevate the quality at OST. So I just wanted people to think of the whole system in this way, and that improvement, everyone knows me, and that improvement rolls off my tongue personally and professionally. And how can we do this better? How do we need what do we need to do next? And these are about these standards. So, oh, actually, before we do that, would anyone like to come off mute and share kind of where they see their role in practicing these quality job standards? Anybody want to do that? Anybody? Feel free.
Share. I mean, this is Cynthia Wallace. So we have out of school time programs in the community of Homewood. I think, you know, the challenge for us is just, and this is, you know, I don't know, this is the dilemma we're trying to solve, that, you know, yes, I think, you know, I could say we meet quality job standards for the full-time staff that we have, but the majority of our workforce is you know, is part-time, because after school, the hours of after school are, it's part-time. Most of them do probably, you know, pretty close to 20 hours a week, but it's difficult because for most of them, this is a second job. This is not their, it's just not their main thing. And so even though we try to prioritize professional development and just trying to do what we can, it's tricky because unless you are a program manager, assistant manager, this is a part-time job. And that's just the reality, even in terms of our budget. Yeah, so I'll just leave it there. It's a dilemma.
Yeah, no, thank you, Cynthia. And you know, I've been in the field for over 30 years, and it truly isn't a dilemma, you know, where a third of, you know, full-time employees salary that they may not see is just in their benefit package. You know, if I take a vacation day, I get paid, you know. So, but people that don't work in the after school program that particular day because they're going to go see family far away for a couple of days, they're not getting paid because they're these hourly people that are part-time. So yeah, you have really good points there. And so when we think about that, I've done some work with the program administrative scale passed through McCormick, and this is the new job work standards are new to me for NAA. But when we look at that, what areas can we give a little bit? You know, what can we look at with benefits and things like that to help sustain this workforce for sure? So I really appreciate your comment on that. Does anybody else have anything to share? Kind of where they see themselves in these 4 pillars. And it really talks about why I pay attention to the job quality standards that you set for your team. So job quality equals program quality, which equals youth outcomes, okay? Which is our future. Youth are our future. In the youth, they will be employed, they will be taxpayers, and they will be socially and emotionally stable, thriving, building their futures and contributing to our positive ways. That is why we need a stable workforce. So when we really think about it, low staff turnover, satisfied people that are working in out of school time that show up and are there and giving 100% will actually support program quality. And when you have high program quality, strong program quality, you're going to get those youth outcomes. So this is just a caveat of why we should be paying attention to our workforce carefully and diligently to keep them happy for sure. And so in Contral introduce that there's two documents. One is the standards and the history of the standards, and the other one is a user guide. And so the user guide is friendly to you, where you can go through and review all of the standards and give them a score. So you would assess your program. And I want to say this, and I'm going to say this, and I always say this to people, that it's so overwhelming. You're like 67 more indicators to take a look at. Oh my gosh. But what you really want to think about is where in the core, or maybe in the other pillars, do you want to focus yourself? So small bites work much better than trying to do all 67 at a time. And research now is showing that doing something is better than doing nothing, and that if you just bite off one or two indicators, you've made improvement in your job quality, for your employees. So thinking of it in that format, that it's not, oh, we've got to do all 67 of these. A lot of these things, like I said already, cross over. If anyone has been doing the program administrative scale through McCormick, or they've been using the Keystone Stars system, a lot of these things cross over, and you'll be pleasantly surprised that you're actually meeting a lot of these things, or aspiring to meet a lot of these things. So first, what you'll do is you'll assess your indicators, and then you'll score them. So 1, not yet. 2, we've tried but struggle with this and need additional support or practice. 3, most of the time but inconsistent and could improve. And 4, this is a strength, no growth needed. So even from my perspective and my role as a SAC specialist for the PA Key, I want to know, like, some data collection. I see myself as somebody that you bring the data, and then we can assess and say, oh, okay, what can we do? And Catherine's going to talk about policy, but what can happen further, because this is the data that's collected. So you would actually assess your program and then reflect using the questions beginning at the end of each section to guide your reflection. So you would think about what opportunities for growth you have, and then you would plan and grow. Sounds like continuous quality improvement to me. So you decide then, what is your plan? And then after you've worked on your plan and you've refined your plan and implemented your plan, you kind of decide, hey, what do we need to still go forward with? What new area can we tackle, and so forth, to continue your growth? Here's just an example here on the indicators for benefits and employee assistance. And so we just did a mock one where we scored out what someone would have in there. And so thinking about doing this for the indicators that are sparking interest to you at this point, and deciding, hey, how am I going to score this? Available primary benefits include health, dental, and vision, life and disability, retirement plans, paid time off. This is hard, like particularly with what Cynthia just said about part-time workers. But collectively, you may find, if we start talking, or nationally people are talking about these benefits, that there might be some extremely creative ways to get these benefits into the programs. And so it's easy to get stuck in our, like, well, we can't afford that, but figuring out some creative ways maybe that do work for this stuff. And I'm not going to go through these in the essence of time, but it's something just to think about. Like an example, most benefits are available to workers who work at least 15 hours per week. So thinking about how you can adjust, maybe you're at 20, right now people can achieve benefits at 20 hours per week. What can you do within your organization to advocate for the threshold being to 15 hours? Maybe you're not even open more than 15 hours a week. And that's true of a lot of programs during the winter months. They might only have after school care, or they may have only before school care. And so thinking about looking at these pieces and stretching and supporting one another to think about how we all collectively can make a better quality job environment for the people that work in OST. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Betsy. And just as a segue into this section, as we talk about policy at various levels, again, to speak to the example that Betsy provided, if there were opportunities to be thinking creatively of like, how could we support each other in this kind of work? And when I say each other, that could be a regional effort or statewide, which is really the purpose of this document, is to think about these things as statewide examples of how groups could work together. Let's say, 20 programs come together. We all identify our part-time staff. We need to figure out, how do we nurture, think creatively about how we can support the professional development of staff who are doing, two different things. Is there an opportunity for us to come together and then seek support for that work? One of the things that I recognize going through the standards, because interestingly, sitting at the city, I sit at both operations. We run after school summer programs, and we're also in a unique position to potentially be partners with our county and other organizations to think about policies at that level. A good example would be our city council has done some policy for the city around like paid sick time and those sorts of things. So it's kind of hitting both, and the reality is that without additional support and some advocacy that might lead to resources to make these things possible, organizations just simply aren't funded to be able to do some of these things the way that we would like to, and that's very difficult. But one of the purposes of this document from NAA's standpoint is to look at all the different audiences that could be taking a deeper look at job quality standards and playing a role in what it would take for the system to support organizations differently. So when we talk about the policy changes that could happen when we're all working together towards some of these kinds of, whether it's looking at, pay and pay equity across programs, or looking at professional development and how we support those. It was in my recent memory that we had funding sources in the past, no longer doing this as much, where professional development wasn't seen as paid time for staff, for staff who might be funded through a specific source. But we also need staff to have that time for professional development. Those things have changed over time with some advocacy, but these are the kinds of things that groups can come together around. I wanted to share this really quickly about the different, and I apologize, there's a vehicle going by, but I wanted to share the thought around how different audiences that we all might partner with could use this information. Folks who do research about this are very helpful, because the more data, like Betsy said, that we have as a community, the more that we have indicators to speak to say, hey, this is a real problem for us, not just through lived experience, but also we have information that shows it here for you, and folks have done that. The role that government can play, or regulatory agencies that are often helping to set the standards that we all need to follow in providing services to groups. Philanthropy, especially in the Pittsburgh region, play a huge role in how folks are funded, into what levels, and what you can do with that. They can also play a role in helping us think creatively about some of solution-oriented efforts to do some things to support staff in a different way. And then looking at just the OST leadership being vocal and part of this, looking at roles that higher education can play. I know here in Pittsburgh, we have a really dynamic School of Education that also has an OST focus, and they're very active in a lot of ways, and will be, are always willing to be helpful partners. So I wanted to show this because it shows how, these standards have specifically been designed to also engage a broader audience. So when we talk about policy change, what Contrell and Betsy went over regarding the standards directly involve policies that could change at an organizational level. Does going through the assessment, picking out the area that is of greatest interest, help organizations look at what they're currently doing and take a temperature check on, are we hitting the bar that we want to internally? Are there opportunities for us to do something differently internally? So that at the very, the closest localized level from an organization standpoint, this document can help, or looking at these standards can help drive organizational policy around the job quality, the different things that you're doing for staff. But again, a lot of those things cost resources, both time and money. And sometimes we're not funded at the position to be able to do that work. The second level that this document could be used for is at that regulatory level. And so that might be if you receive funds through a government entity, if you receive funds or you have a partnership with an agency that isn't your organization that is also setting some policies around how you do your work, there is an opportunity to use these and to galvanize around some of these standards to work with those agencies around what it would mean to support organizations in accomplishing some of these goals. If there were specific standards that were called out as, hey, we're having difficulty here, is there an opportunity to work with the various regulatory agencies that we all might have different ones. Some folks on the line might be school age care organizations, some aren't. Some might get 21st century funding, some don't. And with each different funding source, there comes different regulations and different opportunity to work with those various agencies on, hey, how do we work together to make sure that we're given the right resources, time, guidance, and also advancing quality jobs for our staff. And then, of course, there's a legislative level. Ultimately, as we look at things like wage and pay, as we look at those sorts of things, like those might be opportunities for the state to come together and be very candid about what resources it would take for us as a sector to be able to professionalize the field and pay people a living wage to do that work. We know this is really important work. We're not the only industry or sector that has this challenge. The early childhood community has certainly been very vocal in the state of Pennsylvania, specific to job quality, professional development, accreditation for team members, making sure that there's a ladder within the profession. I think at the OST level, there has been some highlights there, but there's definitely a lot of work to do. So this would be an example where by bringing folks together around some big issues that we all arrive, together as like, hey, this is something we'd like to tackle, there could be some real opportunity to bring that advocacy and policy change at the legislative levels. And so I ran through that a bit quickly because I did want to leave some time for discussion about what could this look like in Pennsylvania. This is a very first conversation about these standards. And there's so many ways in which we could utilize this, and different folks might have a different passion. Hey, I really want to use this at my agency level. And so what Betsy was talking about regarding the assessment and quality, I would love to get support in that way. Others might be thinking about this from a policy level around advocacy, and how can we, as we come together as a state, which we do several times a year, start to also talk about the quality jobs and the profession of the field. Again, like there's been some bright spots, and there's ways to build on that. And we can work with our other sector partners like early childhood, who are also facing a lot of the same challenges that we are when it comes to being able to provide job quality. So we're going to break into opportunity for question and answer and some discussion, but I did want to just give a quick overview of what we see as the steps that we're interested in helping to foster moving forward. The first is just awareness. So we've had this webinar where we want to have a couple of more to just introduce these standards to the state of Pennsylvania. These standards have been around for a couple of years, and we do have other states that have already started to do some advancing of this work on their own. So, in the future, we want to share some of those stories, how other states have started to activate around these same quality standards, but really build some awareness across the state. After that, we're interested in getting a pulse from the wider community about what it might mean to convene around some of these standards. That convening can be around advocacy. It could be around training. It could be around capacity support. We have myself, Contrell, and Betsy all play very different roles in that world, and are interested in getting a sense from the field where people want or express interest to start. And then, moving into the new year, maybe bring some folks together to start to work on this and say, okay, like, we're going to identify a couple of these standards. We come together, we work on this as a state and see what we can do. We might connect with some of our peers in other states that are also working on these things. And, so that's kind of our hope for plan of action moving forward. Again, this is the first meeting about this and an opportunity to introduce these standards in Pennsylvania. And we're hoping that, in the new year, we've gotten enough of a presence out there in the state to start to bring people together and say, okay, now that we're aware of these, we know that there's national interest in this, there may be national support and capacity there as well. What would it mean for Pennsylvania to take some of this stuff on? So with that, I'd like to open it up for discussion. There's a little QR code here and a link that we'll also put in the chat. We'll also email follow up with the slides and this information. But if you're interested in this kind of work and you think that it's a conversation worth advancing, we have a quick form and we're just trying to get some feedback on what specific types of statewide action you'd be most interested in participating in. And with that, I'll open for anyone who wants to ask a question or just reflect on some of the things that you've heard from myself, Contrell, and Betsy around these standards. All right, and if there's no immediate,
Hold on, Catherine, I was going to see if I could poke somebody to ask a question or something here. So either unmuting yourself or in the chat, anything that might have grabbed your attention here in the presentation, even if it's not a question, maybe it's a practice that you've seen or you incorporate currently and you're seeing success. Any feedback from those on the call today here would be very much appreciated. Yes, Tim.
Yeah. Hey, Tim Hitchens, Operations Director of Out of School Time for the City of Philadelphia. So from an advocacy perspective, I'm limited in my municipal role, but I've been doing site visits, and it's not news, but it's certainly come to my attention that staffing is difficult across the board, whether it's getting quality people or qualified people or people ready for the work that it is, or paying them or training them. And so this is really worthwhile for me to, I'm really happy to be able to see this and see what's happening. I looked through the NAA materials before, and it was a lot. So I appreciate you breaking it down the way you did today. It was really helpful. We have like minimum standards. We align with the OCDEL standards for our site directors. Sometimes that's difficult because we'll have long seasoned, very well credentialed folks who don't have an associate's degree and therefore can't be in that role. So that would be something that I've heard from providers. It'd be really nice if there could be exceptions, or it could be unexcluded from the waiver. Because currently that's one of the waiver standards that there's no waiving that one. But the credentialing I've looked into, and I'm curious to do more research. We have about 45 different agencies contracted to serve at about 145 sites, and some of those agencies are receiving 21C funds for different things. They're receiving our funding stream, private funding as well. So I'll be reaching out to some of those organizations to hear a bit more from them on what their experience is, what they're doing, and some of the recommendations. So this helps me to frame this conversation. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the feedback there, man. And hope this information continues to help progress what you're doing in your work from your seat. So thank you.
And Tim, I'll have to send you an email so we could talk Philadelphia and Pittsburgh comparisons. We don't do as much. We don't fund directly OST. Our county does that, but we definitely have, I think, some crossover. So I'll be emailing you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Anyone else with any feedback? I know that's tough after Tim laid it down like that. But yes, any
Brenda
other
did use
feedback
the
is
chat.
welcome.
Brenda did use the chat, and she says it's exciting to think about statewide conversations on professionalizing the OSD workforce. This topic seems ripe for a learning community of providers who want to go deeper into the standards and engage in a reflection and improvement cycle. Thank you, Brenda.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I'm
Brenda.
happy to expand upon that a little bit. There's a learning community of summer providers that we facilitate across the state of Texas. And the learning community is to help folks align to evidence-based practices in summer. And it's just been really powerful to have peer-to-peer conversations and dialogue on how folks are addressing some of the challenging issues, like, you know, some of the things you just brought up, Tim, but to also like do it in a way that is connected to funding. So people are actually getting funding to participate in the learning community because they're giving their time, and really thinking through, you know, how they can increase statewide investments to allow for, you know, professionalization of the workforce. So if there's any interested funders listening who might want to facilitate that, or if we can get some funders interested, I think it would be a really great opportunity to showcase some providers.
That's awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Brenda. Mhm. Couple comments in the chat here just about the energy here with the conversation. So glad we could spark some of that.
Also, Contrell, it's also mentioned that it looks like teaching artists or the artist community is having a similar conversation. And I know, I mean, just candidly in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure everywhere, that the arts community is a big partner to OST, and in a lot of ways also a big provider of out-of-school time as well. We work with a lot of teaching artists, and so it's definitely, that might be an opportunity for some cross-sector partnership on this discussion.
Okay.
There's also 2 more comments in there too.
Yeah, comment here from Kelly. Kelly's wondering how organizations can get support in tackling all of the elements that fall into that core pillar. So I think that was pillar number 1. So much of that area is human resource focused, and many small organizations don't have a team dedicated to that. It's a great question. Let's see if I have anything in my notes on that, but that's a great question, Kelly. Anyone had any feedback? And those on the call?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there have been some models and control. Maybe this is something we can even go back to NAA around, where organizations come together to share some of these kinds of capacity build operations. For example, you know, not every organization has an HR. You could be like me and have too much HR. No, I'm just kidding. The city, we got plenty. But a lot of smaller groups don't have potentially the opportunity to have a staff dedicated to these things. And, you know, is there local opportunities for groups to share? I think groups have tried it. I think it can be challenging. There's a lot of trust and, you know, a lot of things involved in groups sharing those kind of functions. But I believe there's models out there where that is happening, and we could potentially pull some of that to help inform what that could look like.
Right. Yeah. Again, that's a great question. I don't think there's a flat answer to it because it is so cumbersome. But the worthwhile of getting it established that way and having those core elements available in practice is only going to lead the organization to be stronger and help build the capacity there. So the cost way is definitely worth having it. How to get it definitely can be a little bit of a challenge there, getting it in place. So.
Yeah, and Control, I'll just add, because I'm thinking about Brenda's suggestion about a learning community. You know, in some ways, learning communities lead to resource sharing. That could mean even something as simple as, you know, I don't have time to write a job description for my summer camper. You know I need a summer camp leader, and you have one and you have one. Are there opportunities for organizations that are willing to share different resources that they all use, and then that could be part of a, you know, I could see that being a potential outcome of a learning community that comes together to discuss that.
Well, also commenting that if you do the assessment and we have people do the assessment, we get enough data there to
Mm.
say, okay, these are areas where we can provide professional development support and learning communities specific to a topic and those kinds of things. So I think we literally today just wanted people to start thinking about that these exist and and we're wide open to the comments that you guys are sharing, as well as anything that you can think of that will work. And I have a couple guinea pigs on the call. I'm looking very specifically to Valerie, but she's a great test runner for me. I'm saying, hey, can you test run this, and like, where do you see issues and so forth? Like, I can make some assumptions, but I'm not as close to the workforce as you guys are. So to have some feedback, if you kind of can provide, these are areas that we really need some more help in, would be great. Because like I said, a lot of the 21 CCLC and the Keystone Star system have parameters, policies, and guidance towards a lot of this stuff, but there's some holes that could be helpful for us to discuss to help stabilize the workforce.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be, very willing to help in this thing. We've been in Keystone Stars, I think, since the start of Stars. So I feel like we do a lot of those things for our staff already, but there's always room for growth. And, I'd be very happy to help extend this for everyone.
Thank you.
I'm here in Bucks County, the lower part of the county, and the directors get together regularly, and we share policies and other things that help all of us to move forward. So if we can make that a little wider, we can, give everybody a hand.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Val. There are some very informal kind of groups meeting, directors roundtables and so forth. And I'm just even thinking, after having this conversation, that bringing it to the ELO conference so that they are aware of this, and those what other platforms are available for people to be aware of that these job quality standards exist as well.
All right, we're coming up on time, so I'm just going to hit a shameless plug here real quick. In the chat, I'm dropping the link to Poseidon's after-school education and awareness campaign. That kicked off in the month of August. We'll do one session. It is virtually up until the month of May in preparation for our Advocacy Day at the state capitol. But if you have not yet participated in one of these sessions, please click on the link or go to our website under Education and Awareness. Get it on your calendar. We'd love to see you there to get the information that we're sharing under each theme identified on that schedule. So again, shameless plug, but it is directly related to the out of school time field here in Pennsylvania, and how we're going to continue to bring awareness and educate not just our legislators and local champions, but also our wider community.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Contrell, for sharing that resource. And just as a follow-up, again, thank you everyone for your comments and for your participation today. This was awesome. I even feel like I have some different ideas, just jotting down some notes from what everyone shared. We do have this, we'll follow up by sending this out. It's also recorded, but we do have a quick form. We'll follow up an email. You can QR code it here. I believe it's going to be dropped in the chat as well, where we're just asking if you're interested in being part of this conversation moving forward. We may do a couple of more of these info sessions to get more folks involved in the conversation, and then hopefully sometime early in the new year, try to bring folks together around the issues that rise to the top. So in the form, it asks for your info, but it also gives you an opportunity to identify if there's specific things that you've heard that you'd be interested in participating in. So it'd be great to get that feedback. Again, we appreciate your time. And I hear bells ringing, so we must be right at noon.
We are right at that 12 o'clock. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. We'll see you next session. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.